it sort of comes about, and I'll keep this as short as I can, but I took a challenge to read a book on written by Hal Lindsey on end time prophecy, and I read it, scared the socks off of me. So then, and I wasn't a Christian at that time, so I had to research the Bible to figure out whether or not he was telling the truth or not. So the only way you can do that is research the Bible in depth, right? Mm-hmm. So I get there and I'm doing all of this research, and all of a sudden you get to Genesis 6 and you get into giants and really crazy stuff, and I've got cognizant dissonance and stuff like that. I don't want anything to do with it.
I think this is a pretty normal reaction for a lot of people when they first come across ideas like this. It makes sense that there would be some resistance or discomfort, especially with topics that run counter to what most of us are taught growing up. A lot of stories involving things like giants have traditionally been framed as myths or metaphors rather than literal accounts. At the same time, there is information out there that some people interpret differently, sometimes viewing these stories as forms of oral tradition meant to pass down lessons or warnings. We'll touch on a few examples from fairy tales later on in the video, but for now, let's get back to the clip.
But as I continued to do the research, and I was aware of some connections, but not sort of the detail of those connections in terms of other cultures on giants and religions, and they all tell the same story. So I thought I'd put a little bit of that in when I decided to go write a book on this prophecy book that I was planning to do and connect the days of Noah with Revelation was sort of the initial concept. And then I thought I needed to get into the understanding of the culture of these societies all around the world. And I realized that means I have to understand the religion. So now I got to read all of that.
Right.
Because I want to connect it in for Christians, right? So that they have a better understanding. And then I realized they produced the mystery schools that educated the elite, the Indo-Aryans, the giants, not the humans, right? They use them.
Yeah, right. Oh, just small tidbit that Chris Knowles told me when he was on. They were always called mystery religions, but apparently mystery schools, that specific term, is not a huge deal, by the way. Yeah. Madame Blavatsky made that up. It was never called a school until her. I was just told recently. But
writings are older than that. But she did use the term, maybe popularized it.
Yes.
For anyone who isn't familiar, Madame Blavatsky was a mystic and writer, one of the co-founders of the Theosophical Society in 1875. She's best known for helping establish Theosophy, which is a spiritual philosophy that aims to bring together ideas from science, religion, and philosophy, and is often described as drawing from what she called an ancient wisdom tradition found across different cultures and belief systems. The Chris Knowles episode that Kurt was referring to is actually a pretty interesting one, and it's one I've been thinking about revisiting. I may end up remaking a video using clips from that episode at some point. I'm curious what you'd think about that, or how would you feel about me revisiting or remaking older videos with updated edits and context? Let me know in the comments if you have an opinion on that. But let's get back to the clips.
But they came out of the mystery religions who did the education, right? And so
an ashram or a school or whatever, it's,
Yeah. So
it's
what
like a populist version of pharaonic mind control that the common man can be part of.
Yeah. So what got me into the secret society aspect of it was that mystery schools produced the original secret societies. And then once I did the research on that, I took it all the way back to Genesis and the creation of the giants. And then I spent about 10 years into that trying to figure it out, because there's just this massive amount of material out there if you know what you're looking for. You could be down there forever. So not what I wanted to sort of originally do. And then I realized this is how the whole world works once you put those pieces together.
Place of Og.
So
is Gog Magog in City of London the same thing or a different thing? Like they say,
Gog and Magog are giants that are portrayed in London as protectors.
It's not one giant named Gog Magog.
Well, no, Gog is one giant, Magog's another giant, and Albion's the third one that's thrown in there for the City of London as protectors as well.
Oh, it's right there, man. It's really creepy. Okay. Ask these sages where they. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say Gog and Magog and Albion were antediluvian giants from the god Iapetus, which was a parent god.
They mention the giants by name here, but don't go into much detail. For anyone unfamiliar, I looked up the reference for basic background. According to Encyclopedia Britannica, Gog and Magog in the Hebrew Bible are the prophesied invader of Israel and the land from which he comes, respectively, or in the Christian scriptures, New Testament, evil forces opposed to the people of God. Although biblical references to Gog and Magog are relatively few, they are assumed an important place in apocalyptic literature and medieval legend. They are also discussed in the Quran. I'm not drawing any conclusions from this here. I just wanted to share the reference so viewers can see what is being mentioned and where it comes from. It's something that would require a lot more research to really understand in context. For now, let's finish this short clip and move on to where they talk more about fairy tales.
Iapetus?
Yeah. IAPETUS.
Oh, okay. Because I want to look it up.
It was lamb or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
llama.
Betty
so,
Hill.
yeah.
Betty Hill was drawing something similar way before that too.
Yeah, well, it turns out Crowley and all these creeps, they've been passing this down for a while. But anyway, he said, "What is the universe to you?" And it said, it showed him a picture of a coffin in his mind. And so he wants us to have communion with these things. So let me get this straight. You're in touch with these disgusting transhumans from the future past. It's meaningless at that point. Once you're out of the time stream, it's the same thing. And they can't experience novelty anymore. And they're addicts to us. That's how he puts it. They're addicted to us. I mean, you're talking to me about I'm getting dog walk back to demons right now from the Bible with what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to commune with that. I don't want to commune with that thing. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It also depends, I think, on the time. And maybe 100 years ago, they would have called them fairies.
Yeah.
Well, the Fae is just the bloodline of those royals, right? It's just Aryan.
It's a separate bloodline as offspring of the gods.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, let's back up for a second. I mentioned we were getting into fairy tales, but he briefly shifts into a different idea before coming back to that. What's interesting is that he referenced fairies, or the Fae, in a way that overlaps with themes found in various mythological folklore texts. Some people have pointed out that similar ideas appear across different traditions, depending on how you read them. I'm not making any claims here, just noting the overlap in the themes, even with the topic of transhumans. Let's keep going.
you were the first guy that I realized we were talking about Tolkien and C.S. Lewis.
Yes.
Which
he's telling an antediluvian before the flood story. And in fact, in all these different creatures that are in there, they sail off in this boat at the end of the trilogy because now it's the age of men.
Wow.
Yeah, even a lot of the nursery rhymes we have, like fee, fi, fo, foam, I could smell the blood.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally, if you got something so large, like a giant, they would have heightened senses, like supernatural. Like a grizzly bear has heightened sense to us, right? Like their smell. Well, if you had a giant, maybe he could smell out what genetics you had in you, and they were hunting certain humans with certain
dogs that smell cancer and stuff, you know.
Yeah, exactly, Kurt. Yes.
All of these types of beings that show up in fairy tales. Fairy tale is just one of the literature coming from the polytheists that shows their history, their belief system, their genealogies. And so you have things in there like the hobbits, right, who make the weapons for the demigods. Well, who are the demigods in Lord of the Rings? Well, these are the white elves. White elves are larger than the little people. You have dark elves, which are small, which are part of the ugly ones, like the hobbits, like the gnomes, which are the greys, by the way, in the alien mythos.
I'm honestly kind of a fish out of water when it comes to movies, even big classics like Lord of the Rings, so I don't have a ton of extra context to add there. You can see how much influence those stories seem to draw from older polytheistic traditions, fairy tales, and folklore that's been passed down over long periods of time. Some people like to look at those kind of stories as reflections of how earlier cultures tried to explain the world, and in that sense, they can paint an interesting picture of how people in the past may have imagined earlier eras. Whether you take that literally or purely symbolically is really up to your interpretation. I've always felt that history tends to get more interesting the more accurately we understand how ideas evolved over time, but that's probably a bigger conversation for another day. Let's keep going.
And and you also have trolls and other ones that are in there. But the white elves are the ones that are identical to the riders of the Shea painting, which is spelled S-I-D-H-E, pronounced Seed, Shea, Sade, a whole bunch of different ways, same
That's
word.
they're hunting a unicorn, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, they're on the hunt. They got these serpents all over them. They got horses with a unicorn head on it.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
Right.
I knew it was one of them.
These are the Tuatha De Danann, who are the fair folk. offspring of the gods, right? Everything around the allegory is in there, but they just portray them in a way that they know you're not going to recognize, but they give you everything in there that you would want to know. I mean, they have blonde hair and red hair. They have blue eyes and hazel eyes, pale skin, and you can't not make the association unless you've been dumbed down to say, no, that's just some interesting thing that they made up. And there's nothing to do with an antediluvian age there, except it has everything to do with that age that was going to be destroyed by war unless the flood came, which is exactly what's going on in Lord of the Rings.
I'm curious what you guys think about Gary Wayne's interpretation of Lord of the Rings as being inspired by a pre-Diluvian or ancient era. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it's an interesting lens to look at it through, and I genuinely like to hear how you interpret it. Drop a comment if anything here resonates or if you see it differently. And real quick, if you enjoy this kind of breakdown and want to help me keep these uploads consistent, there's a couple links in the description. No pressure at all. I just appreciate you being here. Let's keep going.
Okay, that's why I wrote this question down, because I don't remember. I couldn't go back. I watch a lot of your videos, man, a lot of stuff, and you brought up about the flood. And so when I brought up Tracy Twyman before, who was communicating with Cain, supposedly, on her really creepiest story. And Cain, so you said, well, did God actually do the flood, or did he allow them in their war? So you said something like that.
Yeah, because it's because the first thing I like to do, particularly for Christians, is don't let the polytheists say we have an evil God because he brought the flood. In all of all of the accounts in polytheism, and they've got it in every culture, it's their own gods that bring the flood. What we do know is God permits the flood or brings it. You can have whatever position you want.